Level 1. The Tomato Can. They're not here to win, they're here to bleed. Every sport has its bottom rung. In the UFC, it's the tomato can, the fighter whose entire existence serves one purpose: to make someone else look terrifying. These are the guys brought in on a week's notice, no training camp, no real shot. Just 4-ounce gloves, a handshake, and a contract that expires as soon as the cage door opens. You know the role. A 5-6 regional record, no gas tank, suspect chin. They walk out looking like this is their bachelor party dare. And by the time it hits round 2, you're wondering if they even trained for this. And the UFC needs them, because hype doesn't build itself. A prospect without a highlight reel is just a guy in gym shorts. Enter the tomato can, the perfect human punching bag, custom built to make a future star go viral. Bo Nickal's UFC debut. And remember CM Punk, the guy trained for 2 years and still got steamrolled like a traffic cone by Mickey Gall, who ironically became a semi-legit welterweight just because he brutalized a walking PR stunt. That's how this works. Sometimes it's sad, other times it's hilarious. Like when Raul Rosas Jr. was booked against Jay Perrin, a fighter who was 0-2 in the UFC and talked like he was headlining a pay-per-view. That fight lasted less than 1 round, and Perrin hasn't been seen since. His Twitter's still active. His contract? Not so much. But it's not always that clean. Occasionally, a tomato can fight back. Julian Lane? Yes, let me bang bro. Julian Lane stepped in on 0 notice and turned into a human windmill. Guys like Terrence McKinney got their shot that way, fighting up a division, finishing fast, and earning a second look. But let's not get it twisted. Most tomato cans don't stick. Their records usually read 0-1, 0-2, cut. Their names disappear from the roster like typos. The only time they're mentioned again is on Sherdog forums or in some highlight where their eyes roll back mid-ground and pound. It's a brutal gig, but someone's gotta do it. Level 2, the Journeyman. They don't win big, they don't lose fast, they just never go away. Journeymen are the UFC's backbone. The guys who fight 2 or 3 times a year, rarely headline, almost never get cut, and somehow always end up facing the next big thing. They're not future champs. They're not hype trains. They're just there, always. They've got skills, enough to survive, sometimes enough to steal one, but they're missing something. That fight-ending power, that speed, that edge. So they tread water on the UFC roster, building up a record that says everything and nothing at the same time. 4-5 in the UFC, maybe 7-7, maybe 11-10 over a decade. Case in point, Jim Miller. No man has fought more times in the UFC. Miller debuted in 2008 and has since become the company's most used fighter. He's never been a top 5 guy, but he's fought everyone. Oliveira, Poirier, Pettis, Hooker, Gaethje, and outlasted most of them. He's not a gatekeeper. He's older than the gate, or Court McGee, tough winner, card filler, career grinder. No one expects him to make a title run, but he always shows up in shape, makes weight, and gives someone a tough 15 minutes. Whether it's the undercard in Austin or a prelim in Vegas, McGee is game. That's the thing. Journeymen are reliable. Need someone for a prospect to prove themselves against? Call a journeyman. Need a veteran to fill a fight week dropout? Call a journeyman. They'll say yes. They always say yes, and sometimes they remind you why they're still here. Paul Craig, for instance, mostly considered mid-tier for years, never in serious title talks, but somehow he taps out top 10 contenders when you least expect it. Ankalaev finished in the final second. Nikita Krylov triangle choked in round 1. Craig can lose to a journeyman on Saturday and armbar a contender on Sunday. But here's the catch. Journeymen rarely evolve. They're tough, durable, sometimes even exciting, but they plateau. They don't patch their holes, they don't reinvent. They just hang around until the UFC needs someone to test the next guy up. Sometimes they overstay. Sam Alvey lost 8 straight before finally being cut. 8. He smiled through every post-fight interview. Even the losses became part of the brand. And that's what separates the journeyman from the tomato can. Tomato cans are disposable. Journeymen are permanent. Tomato cans vanish after a loss. Journeymen lose 5 in a row and still get a call. Because the UFC knows they'll show up. They'll bleed if they have to. And if they win, that prospect might have never been real in the first place. Level 3, the wild card. They might win, they might lose, but it's never boring. This is the level for fighters who break the rhythm, who show up, steal the show, and vanish in a blaze of violence or memes. You never know if they're here to make a run or just set the cage on fire and cash a bonus. They're not chasing belts, they're chasing moments. Cody Garbrandt is the prototype. Former champion, sure. But ever since losing the title, he's become a walking coin flip. Either he flatlines someone in the first round, or he gets sent to the Shadow Realm trying. One punch power, zero patience, and a chin that sometimes forgets to show up. Terrence McKinney, blink and you'll miss it. Almost all of his fights end in the first round. He's either knocking someone dead or getting caught trying. His debut lasted 7 seconds. His next few? Just as chaotic. He's the guy you put on a main card when you need fireworks. Win or lose. Miko Pereira, built like a super middleweight and fights like a street performer. Backflips, flying knees, cage wall Superman punches. His style is more Cirque du Soleil than Greg Jackson. Half the time it works. The other half, he gasses himself out doing capoeira before the first takedown attempt. Wildcards don't care about efficiency. They care about energy. They walk out like it's their show, because it usually is. These are the guys who hijack cards, who blow up Twitter, who make Dana smirk at pressers. Joaquin Buckley went viral overnight with that spinning jump kick KO, arguably the most shared knockout in UFC history. One moment, he was a mid-prelim fighter. The next, he was the UFC meme for a month. And let's not forget Kevin Holland. Talks mid-fight, jokes with referees, accepts fights with no notice. He once chased down a car thief and helped the cops, and still made weight 3 days later. He's like if Batman fought welterweights. But here's the truth. Wild cards rarely last at the top. Their careers are roller coasters. Highs are high, lows are brutal. Their records mixed. Their highlight reels unforgettable. They don't need gold. They've got chaos. And sometimes, just sometimes, chaos sells better than championships. Level 4, the prospect. This is where things get dangerous. Prospects aren't stars yet, but they're treated like they already are. They walk into the UFC with buzz, with clean records, with the spotlight already burning hot. Everyone's watching, everyone's expecting. One mistake and it all collapses. Prospects are the sport's what-ifs. It's maybe legend in the making stories. You can smell it when they fight. They don't just win, they dominate, they finish, they make people talk. Bo Nickel came in with Olympic-level wrestling credentials and wiped the mat with his first few opponents. Grappled like a cheat code. Every fight looked like a setup. And maybe it was, but that's the point. Prospects are supposed to look overmatched. The other guy, Raul Rosas Jr. was just 18 when he signed with the UFC. The youngest fighter in the company's history. That alone makes him a prospect. A high-risk, high-reward experiment. He blew through his debut, and just like that, everyone had an opinion. Is he the future, or is he too young to survive? Mohamed Mokaev, Tatsuro Taira, Ian Machado, Gary, Peyton Talbot. These are names that get pushed by UFC Social, hyped by commentators, and whispered about by hardcore fans. But here's the problem. Most prospects fail. They hit a wall. The matchmaking shifts. The pressure spikes. Suddenly they're facing someone who didn't read the script, someone who's been in deep waters and doesn't care about the hype. Edmond Shabazian was undefeated, fast, powerful, and backed by Ronda Rousey's team. Then he fought Derek Brunson and got drowned in the deep end. Hype gone, trajectory nuked. And that's a common tale. Prospects are one fraud check away from free agency. The UFC knows this. That's why early fights are curated. Stylistic favors, soft chins, opponents with big holes and small records. It's not corruption, it's investment. You don't throw your lottery ticket into a shredder. You build momentum first. But if the prospect delivers, if they stay undefeated, finish fights, and pass their first real test, they break through. Suddenly, they're not just a prospect, they're a problem. Level 5, the gatekeeper. They've seen it all, they've fought everyone, and they're still not going anywhere. Gatekeepers are the UFC's quality control, the barrier between hype and legitimacy. If a prospect wants a number next to their name, they have to go through these guys first, and it never comes easy. Gatekeepers don't hand out wins, they hand out reality checks. Neil Magny is the modern prototype. He's fought more ranked welterweights than most top contenders. He's not flashy, he's not loud, but if your striking is sloppy or your cardio isn't ready, ready, Neil Magny will expose you. Over 15 minutes of exhausting, frustrating clinch pressure. Pedro Munhoz, same story at bantamweight. If a hyped newcomer fights Munhoz and survives, they're probably legit. If they don't, well, back to the drawing board. That's the brutal truth. Gatekeepers are better than they get credit for. They're ranked, sometimes top 10, often top 15, but they're not marketable, not streaking, not threatening the title. Their job is to test everyone else. Jack Hermanson made a living out of this. One moment, he's choking out Kelvin Gastelum in under 2 minutes. The next, he's dragging undefeated prospects into deep waters and showing them what 3 hard rounds actually feels like. These guys are dangerous. And the weird part, on any given night, they can look like champions. They've just hit their ceiling. Maybe it's athleticism, maybe it's age, maybe it's just bad timing, but they're still good enough to wreck your night. Michael Johnson beat Tony Ferguson and Dustin Poirier. He also lost to fighters with three UFC records. That's the gatekeeper paradox. On their night, they look like world beaters. The rest of the time, they're the hardest L you'll ever take on the way up, and that's why the UFC needs them. Gatekeepers make sure that anyone reaching contender status actually deserves it. No paper-thin records, no gifted rankings. If you can't beat a gatekeeper, you're not ready. Full stop. But here's the cost. Gatekeepers rarely get rewarded. They fight killers, derail hype trains, and take short notice fights. But they don't get title shots. They don't get big paydays. And the UFC never markets them as more than the final boss in someone else's story. They fight to stay relevant, but they also fight to be respected. And in this game, that's sometimes harder than winning. Level 6, the Contender. They've made it through the gauntlet. Now they're 1 win away from everything. Contenders are the sharks circling the top 5. They're not prospects anymore. They've passed the gatekeepers. They've headlined cards. And when they show up, nobody's sleeping easy. Contenders don't fight for exposure. They fight for legacy. Because one clean win, one dominant performance, and their name gets etched on the belt. Belal Muhammad clawed his way here with little hype and 0 shortcuts. A 10-fight unbeaten streak, smothering pace, relentless pressure, no controversy, just undeniable results. Yet even then, he had to wait longer than most to get his title shot. Arman Tsarukyan is here too, a lightweight phenom who went toe-to-toe with Islam Makhachev in his debut, and only got better after. Every fight since has been a test, and he's passed with violence and volume. Shavkat Rakhmonov, undefeated, finishing everyone. Looks like he was made in a Dagestani lab. No trash talk, no gimmicks. Just a walking nightmare with 100% finishing rate. Contender status wasn't given, it was taken. That's the key difference. Contenders earn this tier. They've beaten ranked opponents. Not 1, not 2. Several. They've put together streaks. They've finished fights. They've cleared the he might be good phase. But here's the danger. The air up here is toxic. 1 loss, even a close one, and it's over. Back to the queue. Ask Beneil Dariush. Ask Calvin Kattar. Years of building, 1 bad night, and suddenly the next guy is in your spot. And there's always a next guy. Contenders fight under the harshest lights. Co-main events. 5-rounders. Massive pressure. UFC brass watching closely. Because the next contender becomes the face of a division, or the stepping stone for a champion. It's all or nothing, because when you're this close to gold, a decision loss can feel like death, and a win? That's how immortality begins. Level 7, the Champion. Everyone wants the belt, no one wants what comes with it. Champions aren't just the best fighters in their division, they're the hunted, the obsessed over, the blueprint everyone else is studying. They don't chase anymore, they defend. Every opponent is coming for them with their best camp, best shape, best shot. One mistake, and it's gone. Champions live in pressure, they sleep in it, they train with it whispering in their ear every day that they're only as good as their last win, that everyone beneath them is sharpening blades. Islam Makhachev wears it well. He inherited the lightweight crown from Khabib, and instead of crumbling under the comparison, he's forging his own legacy. Dominant grappling, ruthless efficiency, and now he's knocking out strikers too. Alex Pereira, 2-weight world champion in less than 2 years. Middleweight conquered, light heavyweight taken. One of the fastest championship trajectories in UFC history, and somehow still evolving. Zhang Weili, a champion reborn. After losing the belt, she came back meaner, smarter, harder, sharper. The striking is still there, but now so is the ground game. She's no longer a title holder, she's a title reign. But here's what separates real champions from one-time winners: defenses. Winning the belt is a moment. Keeping it is a career. Amanda Nunes, John Jones, Georges St. Pierre, Anderson Silva, Demetrius Johnsons. They didn't just win, they ruled. They turned divisions into their personal museums, made contenders look average, made dominance feel normal. But the crown is heavy, and the fall is public. Charles Oliveira held lightweight gold, then Islam took it. Kamaru Usman was one of the most dominant champs in UFC history. Then came that Leon Edwards head kick heard around the world. 1 second you're the best on the planet, the next you're on your back, staring up at the lights, wondering what just happened. That's championship life. Money's better, fame's bigger. But the target never leaves, the grind never ends. Because when you're champion, the belt doesn't just prove who you are, it reminds everyone who's coming to take it.